Today we're going to show you how to get your headset tension on the 10X where you need it. It sounds a little dirty, it's not, but it really changes the handling of the 10X, and a lot of them are prone to this where they come out of the factories and it's just too tight. So you actually have to manually push it to steer it, and that's not really what you want to be doing on a scooter. You want to be able to kind of lean a lot and you're not really manipulating the steering. I don't know if I can really demonstrate it, but this one's almost okay, but of the 3 scooters that I did the comparison video on, 2 of those had too tight of a headset. So I'm sure this is a pretty common issue. I've seen some videos on it. Hopefully I can guide you through it with some more information. Let's get right in and show you what you're going to need. All right, here on the deck we're showing the tools you are going to need to do the headset adjustment here. We have a little 2.5mm Allen, a 3/6/8mm Allen wrenches, 13mm socket, a spanner wrench, or you can use a pipe wrench or vice grips that's got a wide opening jaws, a chisel or a narrow flathead screwdriver, potentially a couple M3 long bolts. I think these are 20mm or 25mm, paper towel, gloves, and I like to have a little magnet tray there. And this should be all you need. Before we go any further though, there's a little 2.5mm Allen grub screw right here, and this grub screw tends to be very tight, and it's really integral in what we need to do. We have to get those out of there so the rest of the headset, we can even do anything with it. So I recommend a little squirt of a lubricant of some type in there. WD-40, this is one of the places I think WD-40 is actually okay. And give it a couple minutes to sit, and we'll be right back with the next step. All right, wipe off my little bit of excess lubricant. And first thing I'm going to do is lower the handlebars just so we got a better spot to work with. Of course, you do that by just undoing your clamp, loosening it, sliding it up. Now this is going to need to be, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this off. This is also what you would do if you were to put on one of the rugged clamps. You would be doing the same step. So you got a 6mm Allen on one side, 13mm lock nut on the other. Push that guy out, make sure you set it to the side. See what I'm going to do, because this then pulls up off of there. I'm going to put this back through just so I kind of have it. I'll put it in the stem here so I have it where I need it. So I'm going to put a picture in now of the different parts of this. After I pulled my first one off, I realized that would have been really helpful to know what's going on in there. And so I'm going to pop that in right here. Okay, that picture will give you a little feel for how the different parts connect in here. So basically you have 2 grub screws here that hold this bolt in place that's on the bottom. And so it's more or less a bike headset, kind of flips upside down. This is almost like your fork on a bike headset if you want. And this is kind of where a lot of the tension is coming from. I did just try to loosen that. That doesn't quite do it. So you pretty much have to go through this whole process if you're having some excess tension in here. This is a good time and Eddie to go ahead and remove these 3mm screws here in the top. Just a little visual of how the screws at the top go in. This plate that is right here with these little knurls or bumps on it, there's multiple places where these can screw into, and more than likely when we loosen this, these screws will go into a slightly different part of that plate, so they might not be in the same exact position within these grooves. Now I would recommend before you undergo this that I would go ahead and call the manufacturer that you got this scooter from. If you got it used, of course, you know, it's a different ballgame, but they might be willing to just kind of send you another scooter. You know, I think this happens enough that they are kind of aware of it. These particular grub screws are always incredibly tight. You might not be able to see it here, but I twisted this particular Allen wrench and a lesser quality Allen wrench. It didn't work. It snapped off. So some Allen keys you might have issues with, but just a little bit of helping force. Try to be smooth with it so you don't generate any reason for it to snap off your wrench. And you really just want to back this off pretty far. I'm going to repeat that on the other side. All right, now I got those two loosened up. I can use my 8mm wrench to come in and get this bolt that's on the bottom here. Hopefully you can see that up in there. Some of the videos you'll see on this, they remove the wheel and everything in the fender. That actually makes this job a little easier. I don't want to do it though, so I'm doing it without that method, knowing that I'm probably making it slightly harder than it needs to be because of that. Now this is in here quite tight, so you're going to need to either brace up against this or have somebody help you. All right, broke free with some effort there. This is a bit of a long-winded bolt, so you have to, if you have a shorter Allen key that you could spin around, that's this diameter, you could do that. I do not. All right, so that's the screw that goes, and it actually connects up into this piece. So some of the videos you'll see, they have you then prying this portion off. The problem for me on the other time I tried this is it's very tight. I'm going to try, because I thought this might be a good idea. All right, I got a couple threads in there. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I'm going to see if I can get anywhere with some tapping. Well, I got somewhere all right. It actually looks to me like it might have gave me a hair more space. Let me see if that's the case. So I'm gonna try, they say try and use I didn't really have good luck with the screwdriver method, so I recommend a chisel that's got a little bit sharper edge. Okay, well that did help. So it seemed like hitting a little bit on that bolt relieved a little tension off of here. Then with a couple taps I was able to get the chisel to go underneath. And then this will pop off here. So I'm going to use my 6mm wrench to give me a little bit of leverage to get this the rest of the way out there. When you're putting this back together, remember that this groove faces the rear. So that's, as I was talking about, this is how it is on either side of the headset. So these are squeezing together, kind of like the top of your stem cap does on a bike. So right now, this is the part that needs to be loosened counterclockwise to loosen the tension of this headset right here. There are bearings on either side that are just getting pushed on too hard, and it's making it very, very tight, very hard to turn. Now the video has you using some bolts. If you want to use the bolt method, I recommend getting some aluminum bolts or some just like black metal bolts. These will get bent off pretty quickly. I tried that with the bolts that came out of it, and I had to go buy some new bolts, so I wouldn't recommend that. So the one method is to simply take your Allen key and use it across these while holding the wheel. And I haven't had very good luck with that method. That's not the way I like to do it. I tend to prefer to use a spanner wrench. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it into these teeth, and you can, with this setup, you can kind of pop it into place. So it actually is popped in there pretty good. And this just takes you, I'm going to pull on this as I brace against the tire. I have it in kind of a precarious spot, so I'm having to be extra cautious with how I'm doing this. But you basically want to, you just don't want the wheel to turn. Just, you can't do it. Okay. All right. So that was really it. Turning that now changes that tension. Hopefully you can see that. That's moving really freely now. And actually, if you kind of rock it here, you can tell it's actually moving it too freely. So we're going to come back to a point where we got good motion but no rocking. And I'm going to go just a hair more than that. And then the bolts, when they come across this, are going to further compress it a little bit more. So I think that's what happens with these. They get, the tension gets set a little too high, and then these are squeezing so hard that it tightens it effectively even more. All right, I went ahead and did a little ride around the block after I kind of put this back together, and I discovered that I made this a little too loose. There's just a little bit of movement in there, so I'm going to tighten it up a little more. And one thing I wanted to also mention is you could also use a pair of channel locks or vice grips or something that was big enough to grab this. Just be a little careful because this edge it's pretty soft metal, so it tend to show some marks. You could even use a screwdriver and tap along to tap it tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it to a point of where I'm starting to feel more resistance in there. Now I'm going to back it off like a little bit. That feels pretty good to me. All right, so we're going to put it back together now. You got 4 little pins that rest in these 4 indentations of the top of this, I'm going to call it a stem, and this groove goes towards the back. Drop it in there. Grab your 2 3mm Allen screws, and you just find whatever spot is available there that's got threads in it. That big 8mm bolt goes back up underneath. All right, we're almost there. I'm going to brace against the tire and give it a pretty good cinch down. Now we're going to feed back in our 2.5mm grub screws up until you feel them hit up against the bolt there where they stop. Stem goes back in place. We're lining up this part of the stem right here with that hole. It's a pretty good fit, so it usually stays in place. All right, so we just this tension in here, so we're in a much better spot. It should make riding really safer and more enjoyable, and steering is going to be just way better. So hopefully this helped you out. I'll have a couple other videos of some related things like brake adjustments and stuff, so if these help you out, let me know. I'm not going to say that I do everything the perfect way, but I know I do stuff in a way that it works. And if you have comments, if you have some improvements on what I did, please leave them below. Let's have a discussion, and just want to help everybody out. So thanks a lot. Talk to you next time. Like and subscribe.
Catch the wave. Feel the